Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm not going to yell into this too much, but I'm Buzz Artiano from BuildX. With me is Chris Patel here. He's on media company. And we have Casey McCourt over there in the corner. She's helping out. If you need anything or have any questions while I'm speaking or on the way out, she can help you with any of the plans we have there, or a sign-in sheet or a business card if you'd like one. Who we are, BuildX. So I've been building since 1991. I started out as a framer in 1984. Built the first ADU in Plymouth in 2024. They passed their own bylaw before the state did, and we built the first one there. During that process, it was for a family friend of ours. I asked the homeowner, Pam, if I could have an open house there and show people what an ADU was all about, and it was overwhelmed. Over 8 open houses, we had over 300 families come through, and they came in groups from 2 to 10 people. So there were times you couldn't even stand up in the building. It was 900 square foot, 2-bedroom, 1-bath. So from those open houses, home tours, we sold another 5 units, and then since then we're having an open house, what we call a home tour, every weekend, every Saturday and Sunday. If you go to our website, you can see right now it's running across the top here as a banner. And it's every Saturday, Sunday. We move about every 4 weeks to the next ADU we're building. So it's an ADU that's under construction. We start once the building is at plaster, and then once we finish it up, we move to the next one. So if you're interested in actually experiencing an ADU and how big, either 500 square feet or 700 square feet or 900 square feet, feel free to stop by. We're there for 2 hours, and you feel free to bring us whoever you'd like and walk around and check it out. And it's a good way to get a good feel for what an ADU is all about. While I'm going, I've been asked to repeat any questions, so if you ask a question, you're going to hear me repeat it for the camera. And it also helps me if I didn't hear you right, you can correct me. And then feel free to ask questions as I'm going. I don't want to stand up here and just drone on, because you'll fall asleep and I won't know if I'm doing a good job. So this is our website. If you ever have any questions, there's lots of information on here. You have the ADU home tour tab right here, and that tells you. So this weekend we'll be in Pembroke. This is a 551 square foot, 1-bedroom, 1-bath ADU attached by a breezeway to the main house. This is for a mom and a daughter. And then on the home page here, if you scroll down, these are all our plans. These are just a starting point of a conversation. We're adding plans all the time, and anything that you want to adjust or edit, we do that for you. So, and then obviously we have our own podcast. If you want to watch any episodes about all things ADU, just click on the podcast, and there's lots of good information from lawyers and surveyors and engineers and all kinds of things. So, any questions before I get started?
Did I hear you said plaster? Plaster,
Plaster, yes.
Plaster?
Yeah, so the question was plaster. So we use blue board and skim coat plaster. We don't use drywall. It's a better finish, in my opinion. So who is an ADU for? Families needing multi-generational living space, adult children who can't afford their own home, grandparents who want to be close to their children and grandchildren, and downsizing seniors who want to stay on the property. About 50% of our current customers are the parent or parents want to dispose of or move out of their large existing house and build an ADU somewhere on one of their children's property. Or the children are going to buy the main house and then build an ADU on that property for the mother or father. The other 25% is someone in the family that has some type of disability, that has been living in an apartment or a group home or some other place, and they want them to be closer to them. And then the last 25% is an adult child that wants their own house but can't afford to buy one. Any questions?
Can you build more than one ADU?
So the question is, can you build more than one ADU on a property? The answer is So full disclaimer, everything I'm telling you is variable to every town. So take my answers for what they are, because every town has their own way of looking. Even though it's a state bylaw, they all have their little things. The answer is maybe, okay? So Plymouth, I think you can build a more than one ADU. Kingston, maybe. Duxbury, I have no idea. What does an ADU cost to build? The price depends on a lot of things, on the size, obviously, the finish. Septic system is the biggest variable. So I'm assuming most everyone here is on a septic system, yes? And how many people here are on wells? Just a couple, okay. So most everybody's on town water septic. That is the easiest because you're not gonna be limited to the amount of bedrooms you can put on your lot within reason. If you have a well and a septic, you need 10,000 square feet of land per bedroom. So if you have a 40,000 square foot house and you have a 4-bedroom house, 40,000 square foot lot, and you have a 4-bedroom house, you're done. Unless you put in a nitrogen removal septic system. If you have 60,000 square feet of land, you probably can add 2 more bedrooms. Okay, that's with a well and a septic.
Does the ADU have to have its own septic system if you have a septic system that's big enough to add another bedroom?
The question is, do you need a separate septic system if the current system is big enough to support the ADU? And the answer is no, you do not. However, the system that's there currently has to meet Title V. It has to pass the Title V, and you will have to do one of 2 things. You'll have to add another septic tank for the ADU to flow out of, or replace the main tank with a 2,000-gallon, 2-compartment tank to service both. It's generally easier just to add another tank.
How much does that usually cost to add another tank?
So tank and piping is figure around $10,000 to $12,000.
Thanks.
So typical costs for ADUs range from $250 to $350 and up. Again, the biggest variable is the septic, and then of course what you put inside of it on the outside of it. So you have a lot of say when you're building anything. If you pick really expensive finishes, then obviously it's going to cost a lot more money. But you can build a really good ADU for $350,000 to $400,000, a 900 square foot 2-bedroom. Okay, and again, variable costs are going to be site work and utility connections. The other question I get a lot is, should we have separate utilities? In my opinion, yes, and I'll tell you why. Number one, you will definitely want to do a separate electric service, do a 200 amp service, even though they tell you it's overkill. For the extra $500 or $600, it's well worth it, because you don't know in the future. I think that they're going to allow certain towns. Plimpton is allowing up to 1,200 square foot ADUs now. Norwell just went to 1,300. Bourne is 1,500. So I think over time they will increase the size allowed. So theoretically you could expand on your ADU, and you want to make sure you have enough electricity. Water service can come from the existing house or be separate. I tell everyone to make it separate. I ask everyone, I think it's the best way is to make everything, especially if it's, everything I'm about to say is based on you doing a detached ADU rather than attached. So you can do either or, so that's a good point. So ADUs can be in the house, attached, or detached. They can all be ADUs.
How can they be in the house?
So if you had a basement that was a walkout basement, you could put an ADU in the basement.
What's the difference between putting an ADU and just getting the basement remodeled?
So the question was, what's the difference between making the basement an ADU or remodeling? The difference is you would put a full functioning kitchen in it, and it would be its own standalone unit. And it can actually have its own address. So currently, it just makes it easier to permit. So if you have a large basement that maybe is walkout or has a partial walkout, it's probably, you know, a lot of the work's already done, especially if it has enough ceiling height. And will save you a lot of money. Yeah. Well, back to my point, if I firmly believe that at some point in the future, not today, but some point in the future, that if you have things separated, you'll be able to condominiumize the lot and sell the property separately. Not today, but it will come, I guarantee it. Okay, so if you make it separate, it's obviously easier to accomplish that. And you'll hear, I think someone's coming on the 14th, a lawyer's coming on the 14th, and one of the biggest talking points in an ADU, especially with a parent selling a house and putting the money in the child's backyard, is who owns that ADU? It's the children. What happens if the children get divorced? Do you still have a place to live? Right? So you definitely need some family planning in this process, and you need an attorney that's up to speed. So apparently on the 14th, I'm sorry, I forgot her name already. Alexis Levitt is coming, and she's going to do a dedicated seminar about everything ADU and family planning. So if you think building an ADU, you're going to need, if you want a custom plan, you need an architect, you need a lawyer, you need a builder, and you need a surveyor. You need a team. It's not just build it.
Can I just ask, when you say that other towns have approved other sizes, but isn't it based on a certain percentage
It
of the
is.
size of the original?
Yeah, so the question is, how can, I'll pick on Plimpton, go to 1,200 square feet? The formula is still the same, so you would need a 2,400 square foot house to build 1,200 square feet. Yeah, the formula stayed the same, they're just allowing an increase in the maximum size. And that's a good point too. When you're measuring the ADU, it's called gross floor area, okay? So you're allowed to measure from the inside face of the outside walls for the floor area. It's not the outside dimensions. So you'll see when you look at some of my plans, if you do the math, on the outside, it's greater than 900 square feet. So you measure from the inside face of the outside. It's very important, because you don't want to leave that 6 inches all the way around, because it makes a big difference in 900 square feet. There are many financing options available. There are tons of banks doing all kinds of creative things, and there are more banks coming online every day. And then there are loans available. So if someone is moving into the ADU or the existing house has to be modified, there's a state program called the HMLP loan. You can get a loan up to $50,000. It's a no interest, no payment loan. It goes as a lien against the property, and it doesn't have to get paid back until you refinance or sell the property. So that can be used to upgrade the existing house with ramps or modify the bathroom or whatever needs to be done. Or if you're building in a brand new ADU, if we modify the ADU for that person that's moving there, then you can receive up to $50,000, and it's a no interest, no payment loan.
So there's bank financing available even if, say, I own the property and I'm building that ADU for a child of mine. They can get financing for the construction even though they don't own the land?
So the question is if I own the property and my child is building the ADU on my property, can they get financing? And what I'm about to tell you is I only play a mortgage broker on TV. I don't actually know how to be one. But I know from having dealt with a bunch of customers, there is a way to do it, but it involves that lawyer and a family trust. And they will go on the deed. Actually, that would be a good person to have come in and do a seminar about. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Not to give you more work. But I guess I just did. We talked about choose between attached or detached, and again, you can do internal. There are lots of choices to make: flooring, cabinetry, lighting, accessibility features. Important to note, in the law, exterior decks, garages, breezeways, sunrooms are exempt from the 900 square feet. So you can build a 900 square foot ADU, put a 2-car garage on it, put a sunroom on the back, put a deck on it, put a breezeway to the garage, and the only part that counts is the 900 square feet of the house. Okay, so you can build a pretty big structure.
How about a basement? Does that count?
Yeah, good question. The question is, does a basement count? So again, it's town by town, and it's, just bear with this explanation. So in the state law, I feel like you're setting me up. In the state law, it specifically says gross floor area of the primary structure. And it says includes basement of code compliant height. So if you have a 1,200 square foot ranch, the first thing, your reaction would be, well, I can only build a 600 square foot ADU. If you have a full basement under that, or even a half a basement underneath that 1,200 square foot ranch, and it's 6'8" from the concrete floor to the bottom of the floor joist, or above, 6'8" or more, you can count that square footage towards the gross floor area calculation of your primary house. And it does not have to be finished. Okay? So a 1,200 square foot ranch with a full basement that's 6'8" or higher, now you have 2,400 square feet of gross floor area. Now you can build a 900 square foot ADU, which helps a lot. The reverse of that is when you go to build the ADU, now the basement would count towards the 900 square gross floor area of the ADU. So your choices are crawl space, 42 inches, oversized crawl space. So if you make it 6'7" from the concrete floor to the bottom of the floor joist, now it's still a crawl space for storage, okay? And then there are towns that are letting you put full foundations in. So again, it's town by town by town. It's my understanding that Duxbury is 6'7" maximum height from the concrete floor to the bottom of the floor joist. Did I answer your question? Okay.
Excuse me?
Yeah?
Sorry, I missed something. When you said, didn't you say 6'8"?
Mm. So
you're
6'8".
saying an inch below that?
Correct.
Is not considered
A basement.
a basement?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
So I guess if you wanted to cut it close, you could go, 7 15/16, but I don't recommend that.
What did you say about garages, sir?
Garages are exempt from the 900 square feet. So any size garage. So you can build a pretty big ADU. No, you can. I mean, we actually have one that's going to come on the website soon. It's X12, I think it is, and it's a 2-car garage, 900 square foot ADU, farmer's porch in the front, sunroom off the rear, another 10 by 16 deck off of that. I mean, it's a big house, but it's still an ADU. So, and then the other secret is make sure your home is future-proofed, this ADU, when you build it. So be creative with the bathroom. It doesn't have to look ADA compliant, but you want to make sure it works for you in the future. Make sure there's lots of blocking in it for grab bars. Make sure there are doors that aren't colliding. Make sure you have at least a 32-inch opening into all the rooms. 36 is better. Make sure it's, you could add a ramp later on without ripping the place apart and changing things. Especially if you're building it for yourself and your goal is to stay there as long as you can, be smart about the design. If you are smart with the design and you're working with someone that has good creativity, someone walking in is not going to say to you, oh, this feels, like an old folks home. They're not going to notice it, but you'll notice it when you need it. So what you don't want to do is build a 9x7 bathroom and jam the toilet up against the shower stall and have a tub and a bunch of stuff that isn't going to work for you later on. It looks cool today, but tomorrow when you can't get your leg over the tub, you're not going to be happy. It's just the facts of it. Obviously, we've already talked about this. ADUs are allowed by right in Massachusetts. The process does vary by town. We manage it all. Common permit challenges, septic is the biggest one, for sure. Finding the most creative way, the most budget way, friendly way to make the septic work. That is the challenge of all these ADUs, 100%, hands down. Fitting it on the lot, designing it, building it. It's the septic, the electric, septic first, water second, electric third. Those are the things that cause a lot of discussion. And then we do offer a free lot evaluation anytime you have a piece of property that you want to think if an ADU would fit on it. I'll just show you that quickly. So we use this software called Can I Build? We can put your address in right here. And we'll do this on a Zoom meeting with you free of charge. And your property will come up, it'll show your property lines. It'll show your existing house. And then we can put the ADU on the property and move it around. So you can visualize how it'll fit.
Is there a minimum lot size for and is there a maximum number of bedrooms? I mean, let's take the septic out of the question, but let's start with that.
All right, so the first question is, what's the minimum lot size? So a lot of it depends on the shape of the lot, but I would say the minimum lot size would be if you had, so let's start with the perfect scenario, town sewer, town water, you could probably get down to 1/3 of an acre. If you have on-site septic with town water, it's probably a 1/2 acre or more, depending on how the house is placed. And if you have a well and a septic, you probably need at least 40 to 50,000 square feet or 1.5 acres. And what was the second part?
Is there say you have 3/4 of an acre, is there a maximum number of bedrooms that you can have on that 3/4 of an acre?
So the question is there a maximum amount of bedrooms you can have on a 3/4 acre lot? I'm gonna throw out the 3/4 acre lot because there's too many variables for me to answer that. But there is no maximum amount of bedrooms in the ADU law. So the minimum size bedroom is 10 by 7. No one would want to live in it, but you can build it. So having built a bunch of these and done a lot of plans, 900 square feet is comfortable for 2 bedrooms, 1 bath or bath and a half. After that, the bedrooms become really small. But you could theoretically build a 3-bedroom ADU.
So the land could support it.
If you could get the septic and the water to work, yes.
One other question to that. What about aquifers, if you're on an aquifer?
Yeah, that goes back to the septic. So if you're in a wellhead protection area, which a lot of areas are, then you're gonna be limited to how much nitrogen you can put in the ground. So you may have to put in a nitrogen removal system as part of your septic system upgrade. So it's helpful if you do book a site check with us, if you have your existing septic system plan ahead of time and send it to us, it's helpful. We can give you a much better read on where the ADU will fit. This particular property, the septic is off-site, it's a shared septic, so that wasn't a consideration, but this is a 900 square foot footprint, and you can see we have lots of options to put it. They're probably gonna put it right here.
What about lot coverage?
Generally, it's a pretty small structure. It's only about 950 square feet, so I haven't run into one that would exceed them. Now, it depends on how big the primary structure is.
That's what
Yeah,
size
yeah.
of the lot and trying to put that ADU on it.
Yeah. So again, whatever I'm going to tell you is wrong, right? Because I don't know your lot. But those are all the things that we need to work through, and that's why it's important to have a pre-construction meeting or even just a preliminary meeting by Zoom to talk about all the variables. And what I like to term it is we call it a high success probability. So we look at all the variables and say, you know, what's working for us, what's working against us, and then make a determination if it makes sense to keep working towards it or if we rule it out. I would say about 10% of the lots we look at, we just tell the people it's just not gonna work, either from a zoning standpoint, septic standpoint, setback standpoint, all those things.
So you said that you could put one of these in your garage?
You can. So the question was, can you put one of these in your garage? You can put it, you could convert the garage
Yeah.
to an ADU. You could put it on top of the garage as an ADU.
But then the septic would probably be easier at that point?
No, it's
You have
this.
to have your own septic?
I'm sorry.
You have to have the septic for the ADU on its own?
No. So the question is, does the septic have to be separate for an ADU? The answer is no. It can be part of the original system. There's a bunch of things. The original septic is big enough to support an additional bedroom, which does happen, and then you would just need to add a tank. Two is the original septic system is recent, and the leaching field can just be expanded and then add a tank. Or three, the existing septic system, fine, but the location of the ADU is such that it doesn't make sense to connect, and then you just do a standalone septic system for the ADU. And you can have two septic systems on your lot.
Oh, okay.
You can have two separate septic systems. That's a good question. Okay, well, we talked about shared or separate utility systems based on preference. Again, we've talked about that. Always make sure you're code compliant and start the process early. The most important thing is, if you're thinking about building an ADU, is to work through these variables before you spend any real money. Right, so get a hold of your existing septic system plan, you know, work with a builder that's familiar with placing things on land, working through utilities, spend a little bit of money up front to see if you have a high probability of success, and then the next step is to get a surveyor and survey the property and work through this perk test or the septic system.
Buzz, what resources does your company provide in terms of putting this whole process together? Like you mentioned, an engineer, so you don't have an engineer that you on site, like within your company?
Yeah, so good question. So the question is, what services do we provide? We are a turnkey builder, so we'll handle all aspects of the project, from design to permitting to construction to closeout. We do work with local surveyors. We have 3 or 4 that we work with, and they are subcontracted to us. Again, kind of a repeat on what we just said, but again, free consultation to understand your vision. We do that by Zoom or in person. Zoom is easier usually for everyone, and we can get a lot done quickly. Those site check meetings are anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes, and I can give you a very good answer if pursuing an ADU on your property is a viable option. And I've had about over 260 of those Zoom meetings since February, so I definitely think I have a good handle on it now. We handle, again, everything from permits, design, site work, build, and move you in. We guarantee a 100-day build from the day we're digging in the ground. We can't guarantee permits. Unfortunately, all that's out of our control. But once we're digging, and if it's going to be more than 100 days because you have an elaborate septic system or something, we're going to tell you that up front. But generally, they come in under 100 days. And the reason we can do that is we have a very extensive pre-planning process, pre-construction process, where we work through all the plans, we work through all your selections, everything is documented, and then we start construction. We don't start construction and then figure out the details. So if you're not working with a builder with a pre-construction process, you need to stop, because you're going to have trouble.
Is this all built on site? Stick
Yeah,
built?
good question. The question is, are these built on site? Yes, we only stick build these. There are plenty of companies that do modular. There's nothing wrong with them, it's just not what I build. It's a totally different product. Again, why Buildex? Premium materials and finishes, transparent, inclusive process during our pre-construction. We make sure that it's ADA optional or compliant, make sure they're very energy efficient, experienced crews and satisfied clients. Again, if you'd like to book a free consultation or take any free plans, you're welcome to. Or if you'd like to sign up, we can book a price check for you next week and get you on a call. And again, if you'd like to come to an open house, feel free to come to an ADU showcase. They're every weekend from Saturday and Sunday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. And we're always moving locations. So this weekend we're at a 551 square feet unit. And then in about 5 weeks, we'll be at a 900 square foot, 2-bedroom, 1-bath. So every 4 or 5 weeks, we're going to a new place.
What are the setback requirements?
Yeah, the question is, what are the zoning setbacks? Every town has their own setbacks, and different parts of towns have different setbacks. So generally, there are towns down as low as 5 feet. Freetown is 10 feet from side and rear. Plymouth is 15 in a lot of places, 15 side and rear. Generally, the front is the same as the house that's there. So, 25 to 50 feet. But that's part of that Zoom meeting. We look at the zoning bylaw and see where you're going to be building, and make sure that we're going to be code compliant.
Have you ever worked with anyone near like a pond and there's a 100-foot like wetland buffer zone, and can that be built on, or?
Yeah, fun fact. So fun fact, I actually sit on the Conservation Commission in Kingston. I am a Kingston Conservation Commission member, and this question is about conservation land. So every lot is different. From the wetland edge, there is what's called a 100-foot buffer. Every town has a different setback to that buffer. So inside of that buffer, what they call a no-touch zone. So Kingston is 50 feet, so you can't get any closer than 50 feet with the structure. Carver is 65 feet. I think Middleborough is 25, so every town is different. So to answer your question, it would require a conservation filing that the engineer would handle. It would require a botanist to do a wetland survey and a flagging, and then a conservation filing, and then to work through those details. But I would say if you have 50 feet or more from that wetland edge, you probably can make it work.
Are you talking about 100 feet from so here's the pond, and then 100 feet from the pond, then you have to go another 50 feet or whatever?
No, I'm sorry, good question. So the question is that 100 feet. So it's called the BVW, bordering vegetated wetland, or the edge of the pond. And if the pond is fed by a stream, it gets more complicated, but we'll just take a standard wetland. We have the edge of an old cranberry, let's pick something easy, edge of an old cranberry bog, the ditch is the edge of the wetland. From that, 100 feet out is protected. Inside that 100 feet, you're allowed to encroach on that to a certain distance, depending on what town you're in and depending on what you're trying to build. For instance, in Kingston, no septic systems can go inside that 100 feet, including the septic tank. Any other questions? That's the end of the presentation. Now's your time.
Thank you so much for coming.
Oh, we got one more.
Septic systems, because I have a pretty big one.
Say that one more time.
They have 2 leaching fields plus the septic, and they span out. So is there a buffer zone around that?
Oh, yeah, good question. So the question is, what's the setbacks to the septic system for the ADU? So it's 10 feet from the tank and 20 feet from the edge of the leaching area.
Do you have to be related to the people that are renting out the ADU? You can't be an outsider to the
So the question is, who can live in the ADU? And the answer is anyone.
Oh, anyone can live
Yeah,
in
so
it.
the only rule is it can't be a short-term rental, so it has to be 30 days or more. And the person living in the main house can be unrelated to the person living in the ADU. Neither one of them have to be the property owner, so that you could rent the house and the ADU.
So you sign the lease is what you do with the owner of it?
Correct.
Like a year's lease at a time?
Well, at least 30 days or more it has to be legal. You can't do an Airbnb.
Oh, okay. All right.
No.
Access to the ADU. If you have 2 acres behind your house, like woods, and you want to build your ADU back there, and you need to go down a driveway and take out 100 trees and clear the lot to set this ADU in there, are they more lenient on the rules to access to the ADU than they would be if you subdivided and built a house there?
Yeah, so the question is site work specific? So in this case, it's a 2-acre lot, long and deep, and they want to build in the back, and the question is, can you put a long driveway from the front to the rear? And the answer is yes, you can. In part of the ADU law, you have to show you have at least 1 parking spot for the ADU.
But there aren't all the permits and,
There's always permits.
well, exceptions.
Yeah, so again, it's all site specific, but there's nothing, it specifically says in the ADU bylaw, they can't pass any local regulations that make it onerous for you to get the ADU. So it would be much different than saying, you know, if you were clear cutting the trees just to put a subdivision, that's a different conversation. You had a question?
Well, I was just thinking about access, if it was above a garage or something like that, or in a basement, does it need to have 2 exits?
Yeah, so the question is about egress and fire egress. So on an ADU, you'll see on my plans, they all have 2 exterior doors. So you have to have a way in and a way out, and the law reads they have to be remote as possible from each other. So you'll see for the most part, mine are on opposite ends of the house. Okay? If you're building above a garage and it had an internal stairway, you need to then have an external stairway as well, so a deck to a set of stairs. If you're in the basement, you need a way to get out, 2 ways to get out. Now, the main house stairway could count up and out, but you need another egress compliant way out of the basement. And hopefully it would be a walkout would be ideal, because then you could walk right out.
You mentioned some of the towns allow bigger ADUs, more than the 900. Have you seen within a town any exceptions for a bigger ADU based on the size of the property?
So I'm going to be testing that theory shortly. So in Carver, I have a client that their current house is only 1,400, call it 1,500 square feet for easy math. And so that gives them 750 square feet. They really need to build a 2-bedroom, 900 square foot 1-bedroom, because the husband has had a triple bypass and a bunch of other things, and he has medical equipment. So the plan is to file for a building permit at 900, get the denial, and then go to Zoning Board of Appeals and ask for relief. I'll let you know. You never know what's going to happen in front of a zoning board.
Can you go over this formula one more time, the size of the house
Sure.
relative to the ADU?
Yeah, so the formula, the question is the formula for the size of the ADU. So the main house is again calculated by that gross floor area. Now, most towns haven't been very picky where they're coming in and measuring. They're generally working from the assessor's record, especially if it's way over, they say okay. But in this case, let's go back to that 1,200 square foot ranch. You would then measure from the inside face of those walls in the ranch, and that probably would get you down to 1150 or 1110, somewhere in there. Let's pretend the basement had that 6'8" or more. We would measure from the inside face of the concrete walls and add those 2 numbers together. And that would get us over the 1,800 square feet, then would get us to the 900 square foot ADU.
Gotcha. Now about the property itself, is there a formula for the property itself? You mentioned earlier an acre and a half.
Yeah. The question is there a formula for the septic? The answer is, it's all dependent on your lot, how the perk rate is, how close, if you're in a wellhead protection area.
Sure, I
Yeah, I'm telling you, the septic can make you pull your hair out. That's the trickiest part of this whole ADU journey is the septic. So ideally, if you have a sewer and town water, that's the easiest, and the next easiest is septic with town water, and then, the hardest is gonna be well with a septic. It's not impossible, it just raises the difficulty. All right, well, thank you, everyone, I appreciate it, I hope it was helpful.